Welcome to Satsang. So tonight I thought I'd talk about trauma that gets caught in the body and the problems that are associated with that. As spiritual seekers, we're looking to find beingness and find heart, and we're hoping that we can live as expanded awareness and have an ongoing experience of heart. But if we keep contracting or resisting life, our awareness tends to go to that contraction or that resistance to life, and we live wherever our awareness is at. So if we're contracting, we're in resistance, we're living as resistance, because that's where our awareness is at. So in looking at this and going, well, I don't really want to live as resistance, I don't want to live as contraction, what is it that's contracting me? And it could be a whole pile of belief systems that are out of touch with reality, or it could be a little deeper. It could be trauma that's been caught in the body, either of late, or of early years, or even in the womb. And every time someone comes near this wounding or this trauma that's trapped in the body, there's an instant unconscious reaction of defense against feeling it. And so it's pretty hard stuff to deal with. You have to be very, very kind and very gentle with yourself. Some people choose to find a therapist, counsellor, psychologist, someone that works in the field of healing to help them get in touch with their trauma and guide them through. And that's a possibility. But it's also possible to deal with trauma by yourself. And the way to do that is to allow yourself to feel. So when something is touched, instead of supporting the reaction that occurs, you can't stop the reaction, but you can not support it. Just allowing yourself to feel what's there. Becoming very, very sensitive and very soft with yourself. Holding yourself in tenderness. And in this tenderness, there's the potential for the defense systems around the trauma to undo completely and for the trauma to release itself. But it's usually a slow process, and a process that quite often will only occur if you're feeling completely and utterly safe. And so trying to deal with trauma in the marketplace is probably a little bit too difficult. Finding a safe place to be when your trauma is touched, and so you can just be with it without having to push anything away. Just allowing yourself to be ever so gentle, ever so tender with it. No expectations of it whatsoever, no expectations that you can come near it even. Just allowing it to be there and holding it in as much tenderness as you can at the time. And in this holding in tenderness, it can start to undo and release. It can take an awful long time. You have to have a lot of patience with yourself. You have to be very kind with yourself and very gentle with yourself. And so the possible cure is a tender okayness with what's appearing. And if we practice this methodology with pretty much everything that appears in our life that we go into resistance to, our whole life starts to change, because our whole life starts to open up like a flower. Before it was like a kind of a closure when we run into things. And now we're finding that instead of being closed, as we meet things, there's an openness there that wasn't there before. It's because as you're practicing this tender okayness, you start to change. Maybe slowly, but a change occurs. And you find things that used to trip you up no longer trip you up. It's like the cure-all for everything. But it's pretty hard in a way to do, because it's kind of against our culture, the way we operate. We tend to be fighters, resistors, and we've been programmed that way. So to actually be tenderly okay with what appears is something we have to learn. We have to practice. And if we're willing to practice, something different can occur. But it involves the practice of being genuinely, tenderly, or warmly okay with what's appearing. And if you're willing, and you give it your time, it'll start to change you. You'll start to find there's a different you. Someone there that is not contracting to things like they used to. Not resisting life the way it used to. Because there's a healing happening. But the ball's in your court. You're the one who has to be tenderly okay with what is there. You're the one that has to hold yourself in gentleness. It's up to you. So I wish you the best.